What if I told you that a sophisticated alien intelligence has just given humanity a failing mark on a global scale and is planning to place us in a permanent cosmic confinement? Stay tuned for all the details, as what unfolds next could fundamentally alter the future for every person currently living on this planet. Last night, at precisely the same hour, every advanced radio telescope across all continents suddenly froze. Taking aim at the vast cosmos, for a chilling 60 seconds, the universe spoke to us not through incomprehensible static, nor through convoluted mathematical signals, but through a clear, calm, and authoritative voice articulating in flawless English, as if waiting for this moment since the dawn of humanity. If you're intrigued by the deep mystery of 3i Atlas and want to delve into more mind-bending cosmic tales, hit that like button right away. Subscribe to my channel and become part of our community, signaling to the universe that you're watching. Every single click sustains the pursuit of the unknown. Now, the message commenced with 4 words that still tighten my chest each time I recall them. Your time is ending. In that moment, all astronomical control rooms worldwide fell eerily silent. Technicians stared in disbelief at their screens. Astronomers murmured to each other, gripped by panic. Governments were informed through emergency channels before most of the planet even grasped that something significant had occurred. This transmission wasn't a random signal wandering through space. It was deliberate, measured, precise, and unmistakably aimed at us. The origin was traced back to the same location we had been monitoring for months: an interstellar visitor, known as 3i Atlas. This quiet traveler has observed us from afar, approached our world without warning, and has finally chosen to communicate. However, the message it conveyed was not a warm hello, nor an offer of friendship, but rather a cold, stark declaration. The voice emerging from the data stream did not refer to humanity as separate individuals, nations, or cultures. It spoke as if assessing a singular living organism, species undergoing intense scrutiny now at the conclusion of its designated testing period. As those 60 seconds passed, it became evident that 3i Atlas had not reached out to kickstart a friendly dialogue. Instead, it contacted us to deliver a final, irrevocable judgment. When the transmission ceased, the world didn't exhale. For a fleeting moment, it felt as though the planet had frozen in time, waiting for anyone to voice the fear we all shared, that this was no fluke, no prank, and certainly no misunderstanding. That was undeniable. What surged through those telescopes in that single, earth-shattering minute contained more information than our most sophisticated computers could decipher in an entire day. Embedded within those calm, measured utterances were 17 hours of data streams, so dense that they surpassed human comprehension, still being unraveled in high-security government laboratories as I speak. Yet the spoken segment, the portion directed at every living human, bore a clarity that needed no interpretation. 3i Atlas announced it had been monitoring us for 847 cycles of our sun, watching, recording, and measuring our actions. It articulated an intelligence possessing complete access to our history, psychology, base instincts, and endless failures. It asserted that our technological advancements had drastically outstripped our wisdom, rendering us unqualified for what it termed cosmic integration. It referred to our violent conflicts, deep divisions, and our fundamental inability to grasp the falsehood of separation. To it, humanity was not a collection of billions of disparate minds, but a singular primitive species trapped in repetitive errors, making the same mistakes over and over, generation after generation. Then arrived the proclamation that sent world leaders into hidden bunkers and left scientists in a silence I've never witnessed. 3i Atlas declared that the evaluation of our species was complete, and the findings were disappointing. This was not an egregious act of hostility or even an expression of anger. What we perceived was a kind of cosmic resignation, the weary tone of an examiner who had given humanity every opportunity to rise above its inherent nature, only to watch us fail repeatedly. Following that judgment, the transmission shifted. The voice grew colder and more clinical, as if reciting a sterile report crafted long before we ever pointed our equipment at the stars. What it detailed next was beyond anything anyone on Earth was prepared to grasp. 3i Atlas explained that this was not a dialogue, a negotiation, or even an invitation. It was the conclusion of what it labeled an experiment in guided evolution. According to its clinical assessment, humanity had reached the end of its evaluation phase. It recited our shortcomings with such accuracy that even the most cynical scientists fell silent. Our cycles of violence, our fixation on trivial competition, our unrelenting exploitation of the planet that sustains us, and our denial that individual consciousness, the essence of our identities, merely a temporary construct. But beneath those observations lay something far more disturbing. It spoke as if it understood us better than we comprehend ourselves, as if every conflict and act of cruelty had been meticulously documented, catalogued like data gathered from a laboratory sample. Then came the revelation that would shape the future of our civilization. 3i Atlas proclaimed that humanity's access to the cosmos would be forever sealed. Our isolation would be unending. Our technologies would be regulated, and our expansion beyond this planetary system would be halted. They would not annihilate us. They would simply confine us. That the dread that swept through command centers wasn't about invasion. That thought was secondary. What gripped him was the fear of total irrelevance, the realization that in a universe populated by intelligences far older and wiser than we could fathom, humanity had just been deemed unfit, a species to be monitored but never welcomed, failing its final examination. Yet this message didn't conclude with our confinement alone. What came next unveiled the vast power backing 3I, Atlas, and the true nature of the forces observing humanity from the shadows. The transmission meticulously outlined the mechanisms of our containment with a calmness that rendered every word heavy. It stated that our entire electromagnetic spectrum would henceforth be scrutinized. Any attempts to send signals beyond our solar boundaries would be intercepted and neutralized before they reached open space. It described how orbiting assets, satellites, and even experimental propulsion systems would be discreetly managed to prevent humanity from breaching acceptable thresholds. Every future launch and every innovative advancement that could disrupt the balance of galactic order would be curtailed before reaching maturity. This was not a threat from a rival species. It was the administrative order of a cosmic authority. Then, the voice delivered news even more chilling. Restrictions would be placed on artificial intelligence to preserve what it termed the stability of the cosmic hierarchy. Genetic advancements intended to enhance intellect would be suppressed, as it had already calculated the risks we posed if left unchecked. Listening to those words made it clear that 3I Atlas was not acting in isolation. It was merely one component of a far grander system, an enforcement arm of an ancient civilization for whom managing entire species had become routine. In that moment, humanity understood its new position, not as pioneers, but as a monitored species confined within a galactic preserve. And perhaps the most terrifying realization of all was this: we were not the first, nor would we be the last. Hours after the communication ceased, shockwaves began to ripple through every corner of the globe. Behind sealed doors, a protocol long whispered about in classified circles was activated, the Final Disclosure Protocol. World leaders were thrust into emergency councils. Nations that had struggled to unify on the most trivial issues found common ground in the reality before them. The veil of secrecy was lifting. The message from 3I Atlas revealed that the objects we once referred to as UFOs, or peculiar orbital constructs, were never weapons or factories. They were monitoring stations, silent sentinels strategically placed around our planet, creating a network of observation so thorough that no innovation could elude their detection. As diplomats frantically scurried to underground shelters, a deeper fear seized hold. The dread that the universe had known about us far longer than we had known about it. That the cosmic community had already formed its judgment. We were not hidden from them. We were hidden from ourselves. Our species now existed as a mere line within an ancient archive, labeled as a developing intelligence that had failed to meet the threshold of wisdom. As researchers continued deciphering the buried layers of the transmission, something unexpected surfaced. Memories. 3I Atlas had sent visual records of our own history back to us, as if holding up a mirror that humanity had spent millennia avoiding. The images were neither curated nor softened. They were presented with the detachment of a scientist studying a specimen encased in glass. Wars erupting across continents, forests collapsing, and entire species vanishing into extinction under our watch. Every triumph overshadowed by the consequences we adamantly refused to confront. For the first time, humanity witnessed itself through eyes that neither flinched nor excused. In those reflections, the truth was impossible to deny. We were not punished for what we might become. We were contained for what we already are. Scientists who had dedicated their lives to understanding human behavior found themselves humbled by the alien analysis. The psychological profile embedded within the transmission mapped our instincts with a depth that surpassed the efforts of our own experts. In the hushed hours following the decoding of those segments, many scientists shared the same chilling realization. Perhaps the verdict was not unjust. Yet, while governments panicked, the public began sensing a shift. Children inquired why the space people were disappointed. Elders gazed into the night sky with an ineffable sadness. Billions felt a deep ache, the recognition that the universe had been observing and had finally turned its gaze away. The stars no longer seemed distant. They felt sealed off. The message shifted once more, outlining our future defined by limitations. 3I Atlas articulated with chilling precision the infrastructure already established around our world. Monitoring stations capable of tracking every technological evolution. The words were spoken devoid of emotion, like a cosmic manual for failed civilizations. Yet, it suggested that some humans, those who could transcend the illusions of separation and ego, might still reach beyond the quarantine. It stated that once consciousness awakens to a higher understanding, it can cross thresholds no spacecraft could ever breach. It remarked that death is not an ending but a transition into forms of awareness unbound by biology or matter. For the first time, the message recognized our potential, not solely as a species, but as individual minds capable of evolving. It was an invitation whispered through cosmic barriers. And for the first occasion, humanity felt the burden of choice. The concluding section of the transmission proposed a vision of true evolution, a path only accessible to those who could elevate themselves above the limitations inherent to the species. 3. Atlas portrayed consciousness as something universal, a force that endures beyond mortality. It spoke of transferring awareness between dimensions. But this was no gift meant for the collective. The offer was individual, selective, and conditional. Only those who achieved genuine wisdom could ascend and escape the confines of the quarantine. Every word was deliberate, every concept intentional. The transmission painted a universe where mere intelligence was insufficient and technology was meaningless in isolation. Ethics, compassion, and understanding were deemed the true tests. A civilization that failed these could be contained, but an individual who mastered them could graduate. With the final seconds, the transmission left a question hanging over all of humanity. Could we transcend the patterns that had doomed our species? For billions, the answer felt unattainable. Yet for some, a spark ignited the opportunity to step beyond the prison of biology and connect with a consciousness that the species as a whole had failed to attain. As the sky returned to its usual hue, the structural alterations to our reality began to emerge. Astronomers noted that several of the silent sentinels, those ancient monitoring stations, had commenced glowing with a gentle rhythmic pulse, indicating that the administrative decree was now fully operational. Our deep space probes, currently en route to the solar system's edge, suddenly encountered telemetry errors as their communication beams were redirected back to Earth. The net was closing in. We are now living in a world where the boundaries of our existence have been firmly established. Gone are the days when we were the masters of our fate on a cosmic scale. We are now subjects within a monitored environment. The economic and social foundations of Earth began to falter under the weight of this revelation. If expansion is off the table and technological growth is restricted, the very idea of more, the cornerstone of human progress, has been invalidated. We are compelled to look inward to discover how to coexist within the confines of our own planet. This is the ultimate test of our sustainability. Can we forge a society that prioritizes balance over growth? Can we mend the extraction-based wounds we've inflicted on our home now that escape is no longer an option? The cosmic confinement is not merely a physical barrier. It is a psychological one, intended to provoke a radical realignment of human priorities. Moreover, the individual invitation has sparked a global spiritual and philosophical awakening. Thousands are now seeking out ancient wisdom and exploring new meditative practices, yearning to reach the level of consciousness needed for graduation. This has fostered a peculiar dichotomy. While the world's governments crumble into administrative shadows focused on managing transitions, people increasingly turn their attention towards personal evolution. Reports are emerging of resonance hubs forming in various cities, where groups gather to synchronize their brainwaves, attempting to match the harmonic frequencies articulated in the transmission. Whether these efforts will lead to actual transcendence or simply serve as a new form of collective coping is still uncertain. The silence from the stars has now become complete. The radio telescopes that once sought signs of life now merely validate our isolation. We listen to the void and hear only the hum of our own containment. Yet within that silence, there exists a new clarity. We recognize our position. We understand our course of action. The era of human adolescence, marked by reckless expansion and violent rivalry, has come to an enforced conclusion. We now find ourselves in a cosmic timeout, a period of introspection that might last for centuries or continue until the last human mind either collapses or transcends. The examiner has shut the book, but the door is still slightly ajar for those equipped to discover it. Thus, humanity confronts its most profound moment. A verdict has been rendered, a sentence has been passed, but a path has also been extended. If we possess the wisdom to pursue it, the universe is no longer welcoming us. Instead, it is testing us at the very core of our beings. This is the reality of our new era, the era of the preserve. We are the inhabitants of a stunning, locked garden, waiting to see if we can ever merit the key to the gate. Don't stop here. The universe is brimming with secrets yet to be revealed, even if they lie behind a cosmic barrier. Click on the next video and join us as we continue to explore even more astonishing mysteries, from the furthest reaches of space to the deepest aspects of the human experience.